I'm ready for sweaters and I'm ready for sweater knitting. I don't know if it's too soon to say that, but that's kind of where my mind is at. Holy moly, will I never do this again. Since we spoke, I did actually fully cast on and finish and gift a knit. It's back!
I'm Nora, and this is also known as Nora Knits.
Hello there, I'm Nora, and you're watching, also known as Nora Knits. Thank you so much for joining me for another podcast episode today. I'm thinking things are going to be pretty chill over here today. It's been a kind of crazy, chaotic, and exciting week. So the knitting hasn't happened so much, though I do have a good few project updates for you, as well as a little life update, a little sewing project. And I just thought that we could hang out together today. So I hope that all sounds okay with you. And I think we should just go ahead and dive on in. I think sort of uncharacteristically, I am going to start with a little bit more of the life update because that's probably going to sort of influence the flow of some other things. So let's start with what I'm wearing, which is related to said life update. This is probably looks a little bit more formal than my usual get up on a filming day. But I just thought it would be something fun to wear today, as this actually was a bit of a project that I put on myself over the past week. So we had a family party over the weekend, which was actually a gender reveal party. And so, you know, in typical fashion, you kind of wear whatever pink or blue you think is appropriate. And I really felt strongly that the baby was going to be a boy, so I wanted to wear blue. But if you know me kind of at all at this point, you know that blue is simply not my color.
Baby, blue ain't your color.
So I don't really own any blue. And in saying that, I kind of joked like, well, actually I do own one blue thing. And that is the dress I had worn to my sister's wedding a couple years ago now, which was just sitting obviously in the closet. I haven't found an excuse to wear it since then. And I figured, you know what? When else am I really going to wear it? I might as well just make it into a top. And so that's exactly what I did. That's what I'm wearing here today. If you're curious at all, the dress was actually originally from Azazi, and it's actually a spaghetti strap dress. I had bought it on clearance at the time for I think like $30. And then their website, you can actually just buy like matching fabric for their dresses. So I bought, I think, a yard of the matching fabric and just added some sleeves to the dress because that's a little bit more my style. So, and we were all wearing like whatever dresses we wanted to from Azazi in the colors that we were assigned. So yeah, this already had been a little bit of a project when I wore it to my sister's wedding, and then it's just been rotting in the closet, and it was blue, so it felt appropriate for the gender reveal party. And then that's what I'm wearing here today. I did take a photo with my sister in which she is actually wearing the Manon cardigan that I finished for her, and I told you guys I was going to see her at a party, so I was able to snap a few pics of her in her newly finished Manon cardigan. She loves it, and I told you guys it was going to look so much better on her than it does on me, and now you can finally see that because she is our blue girl. She looks so good in this color, and the fit was absolutely perfect on her. So I was really excited to be able to gift it to her. And also my crafty aunts, who I mention all the time, they were at the party, so it was fun for them to be there, you know, when she was able to finally try it on and put it on. So super exciting that worked out. I'm glad I got a few photos. I did spend a lot of time on this project this week. I still just have this skirt from the dress kicking around, and I'm not really sure what I'll do with that, but it'll just go back into my little crafty closet. And for the time being, I'm actually so thrilled with this shirt. I could definitely see myself getting more wear out of this top versus the entire dress. So I really did have fun kind of playing around with this project. It was such low stakes, but it was something that I wanted to do, especially because the gender reveal party was for my sister. So we found out over the weekend that I will be having a little baby niece come the new year. Obviously, I was wrong, but I am so thrilled. And so I wanted to ask you guys again. I know I've asked for baby knit recommendations in the past, but for a little girl especially, I would love to know if there's anything in particular that you would recommend. That's been great for you as a mom, or that your friends that you've, gifted to have said that they really got a lot of use out of. I already have a few ideas as far as some little home decor things. I'm actually planning on a project with my crafty aunts. So I'm excited to tell you guys about that when we move a little bit more forward with it. And then the only other thing I just wanted to ask was, I still have pretty much 2 full balls of the yarn that I had used for my sister's Manon cardigan. And I was wondering if you had any recommendations for something that I could either hack into or resembles closely the Manon cardigan that I knit for my sister, but in a baby version. I think that would be so cute, and I'm certainly not going to wear this color, so I might as well just make something for a little mommy and me matching outfit. So I wanted to make sure that I asked your opinion on that. So that's kind of the whole life update. That is the sewing project. And with that all out of the way, let me show you the, albeit minimal, knitting that I was able to accomplish this week. First up, the project that probably made the most transformation since the last time we spoke is my Cordelia top by Witchery design, which I'm knitting out of Drop Spell in the colorways Mint Cream and Black. It is a bottom-up construction button-up vest tank top, which I'm knitting to match the skirt that I already knit up last year of the same name, same yarns and everything. And we're at a really nice check-in point with this one, so I'm going to put it onto Helena so we could get a better look. Here we have it. I'm really thrilled to say that this is in a state where if I wasn't wearing this top right now, I'd actually be able to try this on for you today, because the entirety of the main body on this one is done. So I did modify mine just slightly in that instead of starting with the 1x1 rib at the bottom, I did a provisional cast on to try it on tubing and then worked my way up the body. So since we've spoke, I've finished the little front pieces and the back. So basically everything that happens after you split at the underarm. And now that that's all done, I have gone back and I'm just about done with the 1x1 rib at the hem of this, which I'll be finishing with my 2 setup rows so that I can do an Italian tubular sewn bind off there just for the most clean finish possible. And then after that, I'll have to reference the pattern again, but it will be some version of knitting up the collar as well as the armhole ribbing and the button band. And then this guy is done. It's been a pretty quick knit. As of today, it's only been on the needles for 16 days. And that's even that I've knit mine a little bit longer than the pattern would suggest. But otherwise, this is exactly how the pattern goes. Everything that you're seeing here, it's such a clear and kind of like easy pattern, but it's also maybe that little bit more bare bones that if you're not a comfortable knitter, or if you don't have too much experience in reading knitting patterns, you might be a little bit left in the dark. So while this isn't a difficult knit, if you feel like you prefer patterns that hold your hand a little bit more, I wouldn't go for this one first, but it's been pretty easy for me so far and a very enjoyable process. Since finishing the body, I've been looking back at some of the Ravelry project pages and just kind of reading through other people's notes. And something that a lot of them have said, and what I think I'm going to wind up having to do as well, is I'll probably be sewing down my button band so that it mostly stays shut. I never intend to wear this open, so I think what I'll probably wind up doing is leaving the button band as a functional button band at the very bottom of the top, so probably just the last 3 inches or so. And then the rest of it, I probably will just fix shut. That way I have the option to kind of leave the bottom a little bit more open if I wanted to. For me, that'll give me the most flexibility in the top, and I think will also help it look like it is actually buttons, which it will be. So to me, that kind of keeps a little bit more of the luxury element there. Whereas if it's just all sewn up, I think it tends to look almost like a cheaper made garment where you see that the buttons literally are non-functioning. So that's kind of what I'm thinking so far, but I don't think I'll have any issue getting this done by the next time that I film. Just for reference, here's a peek at the back, and I'm not surprised at all that I love the way that this looks because I love the way that the skirt looks. So at this point, I'm just eager to get it done and to finally be able to pair it with the matching skirt, which, if I'm very honest, I thought I was going to get so much wear out of, and then I just never wound up actually weaving in the final ends and reblocking it after the last time I had checked it on camera. So the two of them will be completed together, and I'm just so happy to finally have this project done and to be able to wear it. I think that that's all I have to say about this one. So that is my Cordelia top by Witchery design. It's been on my needles for 16 days. The other project that I've been just trying to pay a little bit more attention to was my Camisole No. 7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which I am knitting out of the same composition of yarn as that drop spell, but this is Sanisgarn Tin Lena. So it's basically a fingering weight version of the Sanisgarn Lena, which is a pretty dead-on comparison for the drops bell, and I'm knitting mine in this burgundy color, which I just love, love, love so much. So I'm pretty sure that this front part was already done in last week's podcast, but if not, here it is. And so my update today is pretty lackluster because it just is me basically starting this process over again with the little triangles that make up this top-down top. So this part is actually the back panel, and then this is the first half of the front panel, which I was just able to wrap up this morning. So from here, I will be basically making a second one of these, and then when you reach this point on the other one, the pattern just has you sort of knit across the entirety of the two triangles so that you wind up with another piece just like this one. And then basically once they're both knit down to that underarm point, they'll both be joined together so that I can start knitting in the round. This garment is made up of broken rib stitch, and I have to tell you that this has been just a really, really wonderful project for enough of that mindful paying attention, but also a sort of rhythmic and meditative gesture it's very soothing. I've really enjoyed having this project as my I don't even know, my reprieve over the past week. Things have just been so busy and chaotic and work's crazy. So I've really enjoyed having this project to come home to take a minute to myself and work on. And to be honest, I just think that it's knitting up so beautifully as well. I did read one comment that was asking, they basically had said that they liked the look of the top, but didn't fall into the more limited size range that this one offers, which I also addressed when I first mentioned I would be casting this project on. And they asked if I thought it would be an easy modification to knit this beyond the largest size. And I thought that was a fantastic question. So to the person who commented that and to anyone else who is curious, please hold me to making sure that I answer that question. I plan to keep that in the back of my mind, but if I forget to mention it, please just remind me, because as I progress with the joining in the round of the front and back, I think I'll have a better idea of whether or not that would be an easy modification to make. If it's a matter of, similarly to a raglan sweater, just kind of keep increasing. So I am very happy to answer that question, and I will definitely let you know as soon as I feel like I have a good idea. So far, the only modification I'm making to this top is kind of similarly to the Cordelia top. I've chosen to cast on with a provisional cast on both the front and back pieces. So the back does instruct you to use a provisional cast on when you begin, and I've done that just by doing it onto try it on tubing. And then you're supposed to pick up stitches for the front sections. Oh gosh. And I just kind of decided to also do that provisional cast on the front because I read through a lot of Ravelry users' notes where they said that the straps were particularly long on their finished objects. So I thought that by doing the second provisional cast on, I would just be leaving that little bit of an insurance policy that should I feel the need to go in and remove a little bit of length, it'll just be, I think, an easier process to do. And then to just either like 3-needle bind off or seam these two pieces together in the end. That seems like a good plan to me. And also, especially because I'm knitting this with that Tinlina yarn, which just has a little bit less of an integrity to it than some other yarns. That viscose, it's very drapey, tends to lose its shape quite easily. I think that even if I don't plan to remove any length from these straps, it'll just be nice to have the extra reinforcement of a sewn seam there instead of just picking up stitches. I think that that's going to give me the best structural integrity. And so for all of those reasons, I decided to go with the provisional cast on. So next step here is to just cast on a second one of these. Obviously it's mirrored, it's the other size, but so far, to be honest, I've been thoroughly enjoying this. And something that I'm surprised I'm enjoying so much is working on my 3mm needles. It's been a little bit since I've done that. And there is just something so satisfying about those little tiny stitches. I am very eager to knit up a full sweater in fingering weight yarn at some point in the not too distant future. I just think that that would be such an heirloom piece, and the fabric it creates, it's unmatched. So I'm so excited to be playing with this in this smaller scale to just kind of get comfortable with it again. But it's on my mind that I do want a fingering weight sweater. So as of today, this one's been on my needles for just 9 days. And I'm still very impressed with the amount I've gotten done on it in that time. Hopefully by the next time I see you, we'll be in the round working on the body already. Oh my gosh, it's going by so quickly. So that's my camisole number 7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. The next project I'm going to tell you about is one that I need to get a move on because it, along with our friend Marvin and the adorable little shark hat that I'm so glad you guys love as much as I do, they are leaving this house on Monday. And so I need to get a move on with this project. And I forced myself this morning to just sit down and get some done. So this is the Dachsund by Alan Dart, which I'm knitting for my friend who's having a little baby boy this October. And they have a dog. His name's Frankie, and he is a little dachshund. So I've been trying to make this dog to match, and we're getting so close. It's back! Hopefully you can tell that I have officially finished all 4 of these little legs, and they're just pinned to where they're going to need to wind up once they're seamed and stuffed. And then I have the head that is half seamed up and has been for a little bit. But more excitingly, I have completed also the two ears. So I promise this is going to become a dog. Whether or not you believe me is another story because it basically looks like roadkill right now. And I'm knitting this up in Wool in the Gang. I have the label today because I never remember. Buddy Hemp in the Trope Tan colorway, which this is 45% organic cotton and 55% hemp. I actually thrifted this yarn a little while back, and it just so happens to be the exact color of their dog. So all I have left to do knitting wise on this one is the tail and the little nose. And then it's just a matter of stuffing, seaming, lots of seaming and assembly, the little eyes and details and things. So I have to say, this moving forward, when I'm knitting up any sort of little stuffy or whatever, I will definitely try to be more aware of the amount of pieces and components that go into it, because you'd be surprised how quickly you could lose steam on a project like this. And each one of the legs, I mean, those have been a few hours in themselves, especially the back legs because they are longer. They're no easy feat. The body was totally fine. I think it should have just been knit in the round, but it wasn't. So that was already knit flat and then seamed together. The little legs are just so detailed, and they have so many little increase, decrease, slipping stitches. There's just like a lot going on that this became an incredibly mindful project. And this is, I guess, what I mean with something like the Camisole No. 7 versus this project. I bet that most non-knitters would look at these two things and think, oh, that sausage dog, so easy. The camisole looks really difficult. And I'm sure some knitters would even look at it and think the same thing. But to be honest, this has been just way more complex and I'm trying to find the right word to use. It's just, you have to be so engaged. You have to be paying so much attention to make sure that you get all of those little things right. And so while it's a mindful project, the Camisole No. 7 project is mindful, but in a very repetitive way, repeating the same 4 rows over and over, and you sort of get the hang of it after a while. This one, as soon as you get the hang of it, it's done. And you're like, oh, okay, finish that leg, on to the next piece. So I just want to be very mindful in the future, especially as I'm working on more little baby knits and things, that I think I will try and avoid anything that has quite this much seaming and components and parts. And I know my friend is going to love this. This will be, I'm sure, her favorite thing of all of the little goodies that I'm making, because it's going to look like their dog. So it's worth it to me, but holy moly, will I never do this again. I mean, even the ears you would expect to be such a simple thing, and they're not. They're quite a complex little knit of increasing and paying attention and making sure everything's just so and just right. But hey, they're done. The easiest part, I think, will be the tail. And then I'll just have to make sure that I get plenty of photos of this to show you, because it will be gone by the next time I film. So wish me luck getting this done. I hope that Frankie, the real Frankie, doesn't eat stuffed Frankie before the baby gets to enjoy it. But I am so excited to gift this to my friend. I do think she's just gonna love it. So this won't even be here the next time I see you, but I'll save the project breakdown for then. And that is the Dachshund by Alan Dart. Actually, speaking of remembering to take photos of a project, since we spoke, I did actually fully cast on and finish and gift a knit. And there's no evidence of it. So I wound up, but I wanted to just quickly share it with you just because I thought that the pattern was really, really sweet. So that was the Garter Bonnet by Destiny Meyer, and it is a super, super, super cute little garter stitch bonnet that has a little pointy elf sort of little tip at the back of it. And similarly to the bonnet that I knit up that Marvin is modeling for us, I used some more of that Draper James Cozy Wool. This one is in the colorway Almond Blossom, this beautiful baby pink. And this was for a girl that I work with who's having a little girl next year and just announced that. So I was able to whip it up before I knew I was going to see her. And my shtick with this yarn is that the ply of it creates that sort of funny look in the stockinette where you get that, I think they call it barber pulling, where one leg of the stitch just really wraps so tightly it kind of spins straight, and then the other leg of the stitch you actually see sort of those little V's in it, and that bugs me a lot, which is why I had been looking specifically for a textured knit and a garter stitch knit at that. So I came across this Garter Bonnet by Destiny Meyer, and I liked that the entire thing was garter stitch knit flat, whereas that teddy bonnet that I had knit last week, you do wind up knitting in the round at some point. And that's just a little bit frustrating in garter stitch. Like if I'm knitting in garter stitch, I'd like to keep knitting in garter stitch. And this was a free pattern. If you click on the link on Ravelry, it takes you over to a blog where the instructions are. I followed the instructions for the newborn size and then just made a few little modifications where I just went back and added a 1x1 rib to the bottom and the sort of like face frame of the bonnet. And then instead of doing any I-cord tie on it, I did that yarn braiding the same way I did on that teddy bonnet. So this literally took me hours. It was a perfect little quick baby knit. She loved it. And this one I'm saving as my just little giftable for those people who I know who mentioned that they're having a baby and I want to just gift them a little something that's not going to take me weeks or days even. It was literally just a few hours of worsted weight yarn, super easy peasy, fun little knit. And then I just steamed it and threw it in a gift bag and gave it to her. So I can definitely recommend that pattern if you are also looking for that sort of like quick baby knit. And then the last few things I have to chat about here, I'll just really quickly pop in and let you know where I'm at with my Tolsta Tank by Rebecca Clow, which has been on my needles for literally over a year for absolutely no reason. It's just sort of my bottom of the barrel knitting project. Like I have nothing else to knit on. Let me start working on this. And it's no longer that because I think it's time to start paying attention. So let me grab it and I'll show you. Here we have it. I've been knitting this out of Drops Fabelle, which I had left over from my Christmas dress a couple years ago now. And I've been knitting this up on 2.5 millimeter needles. I think that between where I'm at on the body of this right now, it's knit from the bottom up, and the amount of yarn that I have left, this is what I have left that's attached to this. And then I have like 2 other little half balls kicking around. I don't even know that that's enough to finish this top. So I'm definitely not going to gamble and push it much further. I think that I'm pretty much at the point with this one where I should start actually knitting the top, which kind of brings me to my next point of the Tolsta Tank is a fun pattern because it's a sort of choose your own adventure thing. And I've this entire time been trying to figure out which version I plan to knit. I think because of my yarn constraints and just kind of my desire to be done with this, I'll probably go with what was actually my first choice in the beginning, but now just seems like the best idea, and that's the square neck version of the tank top. I don't think I would wear this at all if it had the V-neck, just because of the color and the fit. That would kind of be a lot for me, but I do think that the square neck would suit it pretty well, and I think it would use a little bit less yarn than the full crew neck version. So this was no longer a just grab it and start knitting on it type thing, which means I need a new project like that. And for the time being, I did have a solution. Let me pull that out. This is the first contribution of additions to my Stitches Sweater by Veronica Lindbergh, my big felting project. I won't chew your ear off about this. I'll just kind of let you know the next step that I'm taking, and then we're gonna just sort of take it step by step from there. Here we have her. It was kind of funny when I saw my aunts over the weekend and they were like, "Why didn't you bring your Stitches sweater? I wanted to see it." It's like, no one told me. But after talking with them a little bit and reading everyone's comments, what I've decided is that the one thing I know for certain about this sweater is that I want it to be a quarter zip, but with snaps. And I want that to happen in the form of a fingering weight yarn being knit in 1x1 rib and then doubled over on itself to create a folded collar, which will be secured to the collar up here. And then my pink button placket with the snaps that are a sort of antique aged brass look. That's all I know for certain at this point. So that's where I'm starting, which means that I just cast on this little ribbing thing. For this, I'm using some Knit Picks palette in the colorway Finley Heather. And I basically just measured my way around the neckline and then used the gauge for my ribbing on this to calculate how many stitches I should cast on. I think I wound up going with 133 stitches. And so I'm knitting that in 1x1 rib right now. And I'll probably pop this onto some try it on tubing sooner than later, just to make sure that that's going to be a suitable length to cover this whole span of the neckline. And then I'll also be able to figure out just how tall I need to knit this. But for right now, it's just an easy little project. I know that I just have to keep going in 1x1 rib for quite a while since it's going to be folded over. And then once this is done, I can do that button placket and then we can go from there. Now, while I was hanging out with my aunts, my Aunt Barbara made the suggestion of, instead of a drawstring at the bottom of the sweater, to solve some of the issues that I'm having with the fit and everything, she had suggested grommets. And I thought that that could be a fun idea. And it actually reminds me of a top that I had conjured up a few years back. It was actually a sweatshirt that I had before I knew how to sew or anything. I used fabric glue to add some grommet tape to like the sides and kind of the front of this top and make it a little bit more girly, a little cooler. And so I'm considering going with a vibe like that on this, just under the sides, maybe cutting and doing like an I-cord edge to finish those edges, but then having these grommets in the fabric with an I-cord lacing through them. And then that's where I can put my little cord stopper doodad. And so while I was out over the weekend and I saw these grommets that would match the rest of the metals I have going with this sweater at a good price, I figured let me just pick them up because I could always use those in some projects if it's not in this one. But I wanted to have them on hand so I could kind of play with it and see what that looks like. So that's just kind of where things are at right now. Basically, I'm back to the point of let's just do this one thing at a time. So I know for certain what I want to do with the collar. I'm going to start there and then let it speak to us after that. So yeah, that's what this will become. And for right now, this is my sort of mindless knitting. And I think that's all the update I have for my stitches sweater. Except for the fact I almost forgot to show you that the pink yarn I ordered did come in and it's like the perfect pink. I wanted to find something that was as similar to the pink at the top of the stitches motif as possible, but that also kind of tied in the more fuchsia magenta pink at the bottom. And this is quite literally the perfect marriage between the two. This like purpley pink I love so much. And so that is what is going to be our pop of color wherever and however we choose to use it. So having this, it totally does get me even more excited about this project. So yeah, we have this now to play with too. Now that's everything with the stitches sweater. So those are all of the active projects. It really does seem like the Cordelia top, the Dachsund, those are going to be wiped off the needles soon. And the Tolsta Tank is probably just going to stay as like a background project. It's going to turn into back and forth knitting. I have to look back at the pattern and see how that all goes. But it's definitely not at front of mind. It's very much a last priority project, but I do think it's time to start thinking about something to replace the spot of that Cordelia top. So something that's a little bit more mindless and just something that if I don't want to work on that collar of the stitches sweater, or I don't know, just something like that, a little bit more of a simple knit. And because we'll be having a baby shower in like this timeline's gonna literally fly by, but in the not too distant future, we will be having a baby shower for my sister. And so I thought it would be fun to finally knit up a cardigan with this yarn that I have had kicking around for a little bit now. And this is the K&C Cloud Paca, which is a blown yarn. And I have thought it would be such a cute darling cardigan by Veronica Lindberg. I think that would be a really fun kind of simple knit to have. It's a drop shoulder cardigan, so I'm guessing it's gonna kind of be like, you know, smooth sailing, back and forth knitting, increasing for a V-neck. Something that will be nice to have if I don't have the full capacity to work on my camisole number 7. But that way I can get this done before the shower. And then of course we're going to be sprinkling in more baby knits here and there, but I'm still not ready to stop with my personal knitting because I feel like I've done a ton of gift knitting this year and I love it. But I'm just excited to kind of make another thing for myself. And to be honest too, I'm kind of ready for fall. Like, I'm ready for sweaters and I'm ready for sweater knitting. I don't know if it's too soon to say that, but that's kind of where my mind is at. So I have a swatch knit up already. I am so ready to cast this on, and I don't know that I'll wait until the other projects are done or just get this on the needle so that it's ready when I'm ready to pick it up. But that's probably going to be my next cast on to celebrate the news of my brand new baby niece that I'm just literally over the moon, overjoyed to have. I just can't explain how excited I am. So I feel like I need to channel that energy into something. And it's exciting to think that I could be wearing this, you know, when the baby gets here too. So exciting. But I think that's what I'm gonna cast on next. And that's everything, you guys. Like I said, pretty easy breezy, chill today. Just getting caught up to speed. I'm probably also going to pull out the sewing machine this week to work on some new curtains for our bathroom. So I feel like I'm in the middle of a lot of crafty things and the knitting feels like it's not happening and I'm craving it. So I think that that's why getting a sweater on the needles would feel really good. I'm in the mood to knit, and like the stitches sweater feels like a project now, less than it does knitting. And the camisole is nice, but it's like it's going to be a camisole when it's done. Like I just want a sweater. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Please, please, please let me know those baby knit recommendations. Anything with a moss stitch for that Fonty yarn for a little baby. And just anything else that you can think of. It's also, we're going to be doing another under the sea sort of theme, little baby sea animals. So if you know of any like baby knit sweaters that have a cute little sea animal on it or something, or a blanket, please, I'm all ears. I'd love to know. And I think that's everything. So if you enjoyed this video, I would so appreciate it if you would go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you subscribed and ring the bell, then you're going to be notified anytime I post a new video. However, you can usually expect an upload on Saturday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. And with all of that, a big old thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, you guys. Bye.